In this video net interview at IBC 2012, I'm speaking with Ramin Farassat, who's the Vice President of Product Marketing and Business Development at RGB Networks. Hello, Ramin.
Hi, John. Thank you for having this interview.
You're very welcome. Now, we've all heard about the challenge in terms of multi-screen scaling up both the linear channel count and also the amount of on-demand assets. Now, I know you, earlier this year, you announced a just-in-time packaging solution.
Correct.
So just tell us how that helps to solve this problem of scaling.
Sure, absolutely. So, as you know, we started with linear multi-screen video delivery, adaptive bitrate video delivery. And in the linear world, what you do is you basically do the transcoding and then you do packaging of that content to be delivered to different devices. When it comes down to on-demand, you could do the same thing. You could do the transcode and then you can do the packaging and then write that content into the disk. But as we started looking at the architecture, one of the things that we realized was that there's potentially a lot of saving that could be there in terms of all the disk space that you need to take all of this content that's been transcoded and package and store them, and instead of doing that storage, take that content and package them only when a client is requesting to see that content. So the concept of just-in-time is really about that. It's about the fact that we do the transcoding and we create sort of a mezzanine format of that content, and we have it available in the original video format. And then we package them only when a client requests to see that content. So as you can imagine, this makes a lot of sense when you're looking at long-tail versus short-tail content, because rather than taking all the content and package them in all the different packaged formats, be it the Apple HLS, Microsoft format, or Adobe HDS, or now with Dash, rather than having it in all of those different formats, you only package when a client requests it in that specific format.
So if we take those four and just assume that they're the only packaging requirements that we have, you're basically looking at a quarter of the storage space to what you would otherwise have?
It would actually be less than that because there is no package format of the content that is being stored. So you really are keeping only the video format. So in essence, you're really not taking any additional space for the package format of that content that is being stored.
Okay, so it's just the mezzanine.
That's correct. It's only the mezzanine.
Okay, and the mezzanine is in different bit rates already? I mean, do you make it available in, say, 6 bit rates, but just as 6 mezzanines?
That's correct. So yes, there are discussions in this industry about taking the content and transcode them on the fly. We've heard about that, and we've actually looked at that and looked and analyzed what the cost would be to transcode the content on the fly as well as package it. But what we do today is we actually take the content and we create all the different profiles, the different bit rates and so on. We store them on disk, and then we package them in real time. Now, why would it be that we don't actually do the transcoding on the fly? We've looked at the economics of doing transcoding. While all the companies are getting closer and closer to getting to the point where you can do transcode on demand, it still doesn't necessarily make sense when you're looking at VOD and or network DVR type of content. Okay,
but is that coming? I mean, over time, is it a natural evolution that would be transcode on demand and package on demand?
It's very possible. It really comes down to really where the video is going to be delivered to. If you're looking at smaller resolutions and smaller profiles, the cost of doing the processing for doing that transcoding is much less. If you're looking at delivering that content to TVs and or the set-top boxes at much higher bit rates and much higher video quality, then you're going to be dedicating a lot more processing power to that. And today, that's not something that necessarily makes a lot of sense. What we have seen is that with just the standard packaging of the content in real time, there is substantial amount of disk saving, which really results in much better economics of doing VOD or network PVR.
Okay. Now, you mentioned TVs and set-top boxes there, and I know we've spoken in the past where you talked about adaptive bit rate for the set-top. Yeah. I know RGB are sort of more bullish than most, really, about this possibility of, you know, maybe migrating your set-tops to an adaptive world.
Right.
I mean, you know, is that beginning to happen? I mean, are you talking to, you know, service providers who would actually like their entire infrastructure, including the sort of the fixed set-top box, to be coming from what is effectively a multi-screen backend?
That is starting to happen. I wouldn't say that the operators are actually implementing it yet, but we have a number of trials, friendly trials, with subscribers that are really members of the operator themselves that are doing testing of the video going all the way down to the set-top box. But the first step for that, at least for a vendor like us, was to make sure that the whole architecture would work, that we can deliver really high video quality to the set-top box, and that all the way down to smaller resolution video are going to be available from the original video. We were the first vendor, for example, that delivered full HD and adaptive bitrate all the way down to any device that could receive it in that full format. And we continue to increase the video quality as well as the bit rates that we deliver adaptive bitrate video to those devices.
Okay, now you need adaptive bitrate set-tops, obviously.
Correct.
Are they starting to appear in the market?
Oh, there's a number of vendors that are not supporting those. Majority of them are supporting Apple HLS. A number of the vendors that we're talking to are promising that they're going to be supporting other formats, including Dash, on their set-top boxes. So yeah, more and more vendors are going to be supporting this.
And is it just a question of throwing a bit more bandwidth at it? If you want it to look good on the big screen, the 52-inch television, you just create a much bigger profile as your top-end bitrate, and is that job done then?
There is more to it than that. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can optimize the architecture. One of the ways, for example, one of the interesting things that we're working on right now, and we actually have a demonstration in our booth, is that if you are going to go down to the TV, you probably want higher audio quality as well as what you had on other devices. On a small device, for example, you're probably playing stereo at lower bit rate. When you go to a higher quality, you probably want to go to 5.1, really nice audio with much higher bit rate. So, and switching audio profiles in the middle of the video is not something that's easy to do. So we're working with Dolby, for example, to be able to actually provide that architecture where you can very seamlessly switch audio formats, not just the bit rate, but as well as from 2.0 to 5.1 without an interruption in the audio.
So could we be in a scenario where you're watching a TV and if there was some sort of interruption on the network, and I don't know whether you would see that on a typical fixed network, but you would go not only from a better picture, but you would suddenly hear a sort of fuller sound?
Correct. So what this architecture will allow you to do is not only be able to switch between different profiles and different resolutions in bitrate, but also switch between 2-channel all the way to 5.1 channel.
Okay. Is there a danger if you use ABR for the home that, you know, as you adjust to what's happening on the network, people would actually see some difference on a big screen? I mean, it's not as obvious on a small screen.
That's a very good point, yeah. So there are questions and concerns about that. You know, am I going to be jumping down from the 6 or 8 meg of HDs down to 2 meg on a big screen, 50-inch screen? That's not necessarily the intent of the operators, to switch down to a lower bitrate resolution when they have network congestions. The real idea is to build one architecture that serves multiple different devices. And there's considerable amount of operational savings for building that architecture that supports all the different devices. That's really what they're after. They're not necessarily looking to drop you down to a much lower video bitrate when necessary.
Okay, so could they basically guarantee the bitrate for the TV?
Most likely, yes. Okay, that would be the goal, correct.
So really, you're using ABR, but you're not actually using the profile stepping down?
To a certain extent, yeah. So one of the discussions we've had with some operators is that they would potentially provide multiple different really high bitrate profiles for the TV, so they can take advantage of that. But they wouldn't be jumping you down from a super high bitrate to a very small resolution, low bitrate video. It potentially would go down slightly, whereas, you know, where the subscriber's not going to see the difference in video quality. Okay,
and just finally, would you say that ABR world, or an all adaptive bitrate world, is the obvious way that this industry will now go?
So far, it definitely appears to be so. If you've seen recently in a lot of the press, as well as us working with our customers, we're seeing slowly IPTV start to slow down or go away in some cases, and adaptive bitrate take over that. And we're also seeing in the cable environment with our cable customers, a majority of them are rolling out adaptive bitrate as their next generation IP video delivery architecture. So we think that's really the way to go. Okay, well, it's fascinating as always, and thank you very much for your time, Ramin. Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
Good talking to you.